What's up, guys? Welcome back to Pomo Bespoke. I've not published a video in at least 2 weeks now, so I think I owe you guys an apology. There's been a major power cut around where I live, so I'm upgrading my studio to be able to run it on power banks and 18650 batteries. I'll talk to you guys about that in another video, but for now, this is the shoe that I want to make. I'm preparing it for our finish work classes coming up in April. If you're not a member of the channel, take up one of our membership options because the cost you pay to join that finish work class will be far more expensive than what it costs to be a member. But what do I know? I just know how to drink coffee. Let's get to what we want to do. The heel height for this shoe is 5 cm. The last length is 32 cm and it is a size 40. And I'm making it for my wife. If you're asking if my wife wears a size 40, of course. As always, the very first thing we will do is to trace out the mean form on top of a plain sheet of paper on which we are going to do our design. If you don't know what a mean form is, maybe watch our earlier videos dealing with the subject. Just take it like it is one side of your last tape top that you are designing upon. So let's design. I draw a line from the vamp point to the ball and divide that vamp line into two. I didn't mark in my counterpoint and my back height earlier, so I mark that in now. And draw the quarter line from the counterpoint to the middle of the vamp line. Now this is a female last. So I'm going to start about 3 cm beneath the instep. That's the tongue. The tongue starts about 3 cm beneath the instep. Of course, that there is the tip of the last, the highest point on the last. Then if I draw a right angle from that point where I want to start my tongue, I can actually have a line on which I'm going to draw the width of my tongue. Now the width of my tongue will be approximately 1/8 of the last length, and since the last length is 32, 1/8 is 4 cm, so I'll mark 4 cm on that line there. Then if I mark 1 cm beneath the middle of the vamp line and connect those 2 points, I have the tongue of my loafers complete. Those of you who have been in our no long thing class, the loafers coaching class, will already be conversant with all of this. So let's mark in our back height about 50 mm on top of the counterpoint and join that to where the quarter line itself starts again. So with this, you can see that my basic loafers is complete. The bow of the loafers, I'll start about 2 cm beneath, or about 1.5 cm beneath where the tongue starts, and its total width can be, let's say, about 3 cm. So if we mark that at right angle from the point 3 cm from where the bow started, then this point in the middle here will be around about where we will put the buckle, just to have it in alignment with the design that we are working with. Now let's do the apron. If I draw a line from a right angle from the tip of the last, divide its width into 2, I can actually connect it to the middle of the vamp line and curving it in like so. I can have the outline of my apron. Now, of course, this is a symmetrical apron. Now, even though this is an asymmetrical shoe, I expect to have some distortion, really, using a symmetrical apron right here. Now, let me tighten the heel a little bit. So once 1 mm inward, about 2 mm at the feather edge, I curve that in like so. This is basically to tighten the heel so that the feet of the wearer isn't pulling out of the shoe when he's wearing it. You basically should do this in almost every single pattern that you create. Let's go ahead and cut out everything. And ladies and gentlemen, this is our standard pattern, and we will move on to the next step in the process, which is to spring the apron of these loafers. First of all, coffee break. So this is the intersection point. If I draw a right angle of the intersection between the tongue and the rest of the loafers, extend that line to the tongue, to the center line, and then rip open my vamp line and open it up by about 5 mm. This is the process of springing the apron really. Then secure the ripped open standard, secure it using a masking tape. With this, I can go ahead and spring the entire pattern. So placing the tip of the pattern on the center line, and then that point, this point right here where that line meets the center line of the apron. So this is the tip right here. So I place those 2 points on the center line and draw everything, every part of this pattern until I get to that intersection point. Of course, the top line I am punching in with a sharp or pointy object. So this is the intersection line. Using it as pivot, I'll pivot until the rest of the tongue aligns with the center line, and I can basically punch in the rest of the tongue. So this is the completely sprung apron pattern. Springing the pattern completely obviates for the need for you to spring the apron independently. So what I typically will do is to spring the entire pattern completely, and then I can design my apron on top of it. So I'm going to design the apron once again so that if you didn't follow when we did it the first time, you can understand exactly what is going on. All right, so let's do it. The bow, like we said before, will start about 2 cm beneath where the tongue starts. That was just a right angle. The width of the bow can be about 3 cm. Let's leave the bow. The bow is not a difficult thing. It's just a rectangle, really. Now, if I draw a line from the middle, from that intersection point, and then from the tip of the last, I draw another line to meet it. Dividing that line into 2 will give me a point that if I join it to the intersection point of the tongue and the top line, I can have an angle that I can curve in like so to give myself the apron of this loafers. Finish off that bow, you see, as like so. So the buckle will be somewhere around here. So if that is the point where the buckle is going to be inserted, let's just mark it out by punching a hole right there in the middle. Right. So let's cut out everything. We're almost done. So this is our pattern, ladies and gentlemen. You remember that I mentioned that you could actually design your apron by using the insole pattern of your last. And that way you could, very fine grainly make up for any asymmetry. But in this case, I'm taking the risk of using a symmetrical apron, which I am cutting out right now. So this is, of course, I mark out those 2 points clearly as my intersection points. That is the medial side of this pattern. This is the medial side of the apron. And there we have it. Just cut in our tracing channels to indicate our lasting allowance properly, and then also tracing channels around here to show where the bow will be stitched onto the rest of the pattern. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the complete pattern. Of course, I'll add stitching allowances at that part so that the apron can sit right there, but let's go ahead and design a a strip that is going to cover the back seam. I usually like to use the curve of my back seams to design that strip, just so that it is not just one long rectangle, but you know, something that somehow aligns with the overall design that we started out with ultimately. So this will be that back strip right here. That's the apron, and that is the strip at the back there. So ladies and gentlemen, this is your pattern. In the next video, we will put it on leather, click close, and get on with building the shoe so that when it is April, we can use this shoe to teach the class on finish work. God bless you.